I am really glad you're doing a life story group and that you're checking out this quick orientation. Now, you could probably do a successful group without this video. They're pretty simple groups, but what this video will do is help you understand stuff that we have learned about the groups over the years. These kinds of groups started when I was a mountain guide, and groups would join me at about 9,000 feet, and then we would climb peaks that are about 14,000 feet. They were from flat land, so they were sucking air, and so they were worn out by the time we were 2 days into the trail. And to bond the group, every lunch and every dinner, we'd take an hour and take turns telling our life stories. And because it was such hard hiking, everybody was happy to spend an hour sitting down listening. And here's the thing, it did. It was one of the most effective bonding experiences I've had. It bonded these groups relatively quickly. So, when I started as a minister, life story groups came with me. They're just what they sound like. We form small groups and tell one another the stories of our lives. These groups are 3 to 4 people, so we meet 3 to 4 times. Very simple, short time commitment, very easy, and a lot of fun. So, some guidelines. Guideline number 1. When you do a life story, you can sanitize your story as much as you want to. You do not have to tell any part that you don't want to tell. If you're reluctant to share some part, please still participate because it is still a powerful experience. But the more honest you can be, the more fun the groups are. Consequently, if you are comfortable being transparent, maybe you could offer to go first. Because if you are honest with your story and then the sky doesn't fall down, the rest of the group will be more comfortable being honest as well. And again, more fun. More honest, more fun. Now, of course, practice good sense. Some parts of our lives need the safety of time and trust before we share it within relationship. This is a brand new group, and too much honesty, people may not be prepared for that much. But here's our experience. The line of what is too much is usually a lot further out than we expect it is. So you get to sanitize your story as much as you want. Maybe you should sanitize it just a little bit, but for the most part, the more honest we are, the more fun it is. Guideline number 2, confidentiality. We practiced don't even tell your spouse confidentiality in our life story groups. Actually, in all the groups where we practice transparency, confidentiality is the key because it is the key to authentic community. So if you don't think you can hold confidence, don't do a life story group. We do not talk about what we hear in our groups. Now, I say this every time we form groups. If I hear that somebody breaks confidence, we will be having a talk. Now, I have said that for years and years, and I have never had to have that talk. As a community, we've done a great job practicing confidentiality together. As a group, we don't tend to gossip. And it's good that we do because confidentiality is the cornerstone of trust, and trust is the cornerstone of authentic community. What we found about life story groups that they do, they build trust and they build affection. Okay, guideline number 3, which is actually several guidelines. These are the practical things. Try and organize your groups for uninterrupted, unhurried time together. Most people think first time they do it, oh, my story couldn't take possibly more than 20 minutes. But get into it with other people, which is a listening environment, and it turns out, I often have more to say than I thought. Now, maybe that doesn't happen, but if we have created unhurried, non-deadline time and space, if that does happen, we can go with it. Second, plan for childcare. Focus and good listening is very difficult to sustain with kids interrupting in and out. So plan for some kind of childcare. Third, food makes these groups more fun, but it's not essential. I try to organize my groups so that each storyteller brings food on the day they tell their story. So we eat together and then we go into the other room and we sit down and we tell our story. I tend to pick up Chinese or people pick up chicken or pizza. A rare individual makes food for the group, but again, not essential, just makes it more fun. Fourth, show up. Life story groups don't typically run 3 or 4 weeks in a row because life happens. So postponing a week so that everyone can be there, that's more norm than it is exception. But work really hard to be there each time someone tells their story. Because tell your story and then not show up to listen, we send the message, you're just not worth my time, which is not good for building authentic community. Fifth thing, questions. We reserve questions to the end. We do that so that we don't interrupt folks as they're telling their story, because we want to give people a chance to tell their whole story without being distracted. And here's why. Often it happens. It's happened for me. The storyteller learns something about themselves in the telling of their own story. Because here's the thing, our story happened a long time ago, and we are not the same us we were when we were living that story. We have more perspective, and we may not have re-examined our story through the lens of this new perspective. And if our life story groups, by putting questions to the end, create this listening environment, it turns out when we are listened to, we often have our best insights. And finally, and this one's kind of vague, look for the inner light. Now, if you've been around, you've heard on Sundays so many times, we are, every one of us, carriers of the inner light. And that's a fuzzy, kind of woo-woo notion. What does it even mean? But if you listen to how someone lives their one life on this earth, that is about the best place to see the inner light that we all carry. Now, back when we were first starting these, we used to pick our life story group partners. But then we threw some groups together randomly, and what we found is that people are often surprised by the light in someone we had previously unconsciously assumed we wouldn't see. That happened to my wife. She was in a group with a woman who's super chatty, and Denise is a little bit introverted. So never intentionally, never consciously, she said she would not have chosen to be in a life story group with this woman if she had picked who she would be with. But circumstances, and then she was in a group with this person. And now, 25 years later, they are dear friends. They saw the light in one another. They have been through some of life's biggest challenges together. So I encourage you to look for the light in every one of us. Now, our experience has been, if you look, you do find. So the core mission of our community, build authentic spiritual community. Go deeper than being polite and nice to one another. Get comfortable enough with one another to show our shit to each other, or get on each other's nerves, and then still love one another after that. That kind of authentic community. I know that's a big ask in our society, but life story groups are one of the best ways that we have found to get there. So again, very glad you're doing one of these groups. Go forth, story together, have a great time. They're a lot of fun.